Hello, 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 and welcome to the Bridges and Beacons podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Meyerson, and today I'm really so excited. I always kind of laugh because I start these podcast episodes and I get so excited talking to my guests before they even come on that I'm like, wait. We probably should press record at some point. But I feel like one day what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pre and post conversations and record them because sometimes there's such good stuff in there. But today, my guest is Adam Dickinson. He is a logic to intuition integration advisor serving as a future self strategist who helps people understand and interpret their inner intelligence as their awareness expands. He's currently focused on supporting U.S. federal workers who want to transition their careers into something that's new and more aligned. While spending over 15 years solving problems through logic at the FBI, Adam experienced an internal shift that required him to learn how to navigate inner signals, emotional resonance, and expanded states of awareness. Today, he teaches a grounded approach to integrating intuition with rational thinking so people can move through inner evolution with clarity and confidence. Adam, I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you, Kelly. Yes, I'm excited too, and it's good to see a familiar face.
Yes, so true. I've been asking Adam probably for as long as I've known him, which is probably a year or so,
Hmm.
and asking him to come on the podcast because I think, first of all, your story is really interesting because, a lot of the people that come on here are therapists or like people who work in the spiritual world, physicians, like that kind of realm. But you'll be the first person I've interviewed who worked at the FBI, which to the layperson is kind of like, are they even allowed to talk about that they worked at the
Yeah, that's a great point, and usually the answer is no,
FBI?
for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So your story is really fascinating to me and absolutely cool. We were talking before we started to record that the work that you do is really bridging the two concepts of logic and intuition, which for
Hmm.
many people have always lived on opposite ends of the spectrum. Never the two shall meet.
Hmm.
For me, I completely resonate because having worked as a therapist for so many years and coming through all the science, but always like in the back of my mind, always been into spirituality, but never like dipped my toe as much as I have, in the past decade or so.
Hmm.
But that bridging those two areas together to me is where things get really interesting and fun.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. Fun's a good summary word for that when you experience both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. So I want you to take me back, not to your shift in career,
Hmm.
but when did you first get the sense that there was more to life than logic? I mean, obviously, you worked for the FBI. You
Hmm.
must have had that kind of analytical brain to
Hmm.
be interested in that kind of career path. So, where did the intuition piece show up for you?
Yeah, I think I would start just to give a storyline, general arc. Even as a kid, I recall and remember daydreaming a lot, meaning just imagining what life could be. I always wanted to be a superhero of some kind, like I was a big fan of X-Men, for example. And I would just imagine all these different superpowers that I could have to help others. And it was kind of the start of looking at what's behind the patterns and what do the patterns really mean and what's in between those data points. And I bring that up, that little story of as a kid, because as I became an adult, imagination was really sort of the starting point to observing intuition, and especially with being an Akashic record reader. observing the energy and observing your own interpretation of information has a an approach that is not looking at data points on a very focused in a very focused manner, but more of an imaginative, very whimsical or very light touch to the information that's coming through. And I didn't really have an aha moment on this sort of connection between like imagination and exploring your intuition till I started giving readings to myself and other people, Akashic Record readings. And I noticed that when I'm giving readings, I'm in a flow state, and that feeling is also what happened when I was an analyst at the FBI. So when I was
Hmm.
connecting data points, I was essentially in my own records. And I would feel words and phrases when I was making intelligence judgments and analytic arguments, and I would rearrange the analytic argument based on how the data felt. And it's also that aspect is also kind of a key pillar on what I advise individuals now on how they can look at different data points for their decision making.
Whoa. That is so cool. I love that so much. All right, I want to come back to the being in that flow state when working with data, but you
Hmm.
talked about being a child and really wanting to be a superhero, relating to, characters like from the X-Men. So, was there a particular character that you really resonated with?
Yeah, oh, I really wanted to have Storm's superpowers. I really
Mm.
like the notion that you could control the weather and have a connection to the environment and feel oh, now that I'm thinking about it, like have a deeper connection to your surroundings and sort of change different weather patterns to whatever you desire. But that really resonates. And who doesn't want like lightning coming down and so on and so forth. So yeah, I really resonated with her character.
Yeah. Well, and she could fly too. So that was like because of the weather, she could fly. So you didn't have to pick like I want to fly. You could pick a lot more from that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
We've been watching a lot of those movies, the X Men, the Marvel, like those kind of movies with my son who's 11.
Uh-huh.
So he's finally at the age where we can kind of watch most of those movies with him, and it's really cool to think about that. And what really struck me is I was thinking to myself, like, could you imagine going back and talking to yourself as a kid and being like, actually, you can have superpowers. Like this is like something you can do. Like this is based in some reality.
Hmm. Yeah, it is quite ironic now that you mention that because if I were to share a message with my younger self at maybe the age of your son, I probably would be like, "What? You are making that up? That sounds unrealistic. Are you kidding me?" And but it's now that I reflect on the current day when I am helping myself navigate decisions, I also connect with my Akashic records very quickly. And it is essentially like the inner intelligence that's coming through is my superpower, my secret sauce that not many people are aware of unless you work with me. So it is um, very much helps me keep myself anchored and grounded when nothing is currently making sense most of the time on current events.
Mm, I love that. I How did you get into Akashic record reading? Where did that show up for you?
Yeah, so similar to your first question, when I was looking to grow from a painful life experience and heal myself. It was sort of the inflection point where logic didn't make any sense anymore because I had wanted to really hold on to that relationship and realizing that I couldn't and I had to move on. Essentially fought myself. And because of that internal uh, pain and uh, problem that I had trouble moving through, I decided to start to meditate. And I also wanted to get clear on my purpose because I'll just be honest with you, Kelly, it was a very dark time. I really just had to be like, what's the point in eating? What's the point in getting up and doing
Mm,
XYZ? So having that deeper connection to my purpose and being anchored in that way was sort of the first step. And then when I started to meditate to observe the pain and let it fall and heal from it, then I got a more clear sense on how I was going to cope.
mm,
And it wasn't until right before COVID that I ran into someone and he introduced me to the Akashic Records. And the way he described it, and this is kind of how I describe it now to clients that I work with, is it's sort of like to me, and I would love your thoughts too, because you're also a reader. What to me is like a treasure map of all the answers you could ever want. And if you're navigating everything, like who wouldn't want that to help you do this or do that or go in this direction or go in that direction? And to me, logically, it made perfect sense because it was a combination of my purpose, it was a combination of my meditation, and I could use that ability, and then also it helped guide me. So it was like the perfect storm coming together,
mm-hmm.
and I find the Akashic Records also to be efficient compared to other intuitive modalities. Meaning you don't need much material, you just need yourself, and then you go forth and conquer.
Yeah. Yeah. I, right around the same time, actually, I connected with someone. Her name is Laura Mazzata. Still connected with her, through LinkedIn. And she was doing, I was in groups, I think it was Facebook on the time, but she would do like a Facebook Live and she would
Mm.
read Akashic Records.
Oh,
And
really?
so, like people would come on and ask her questions and she would like just answer like right then and there. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And who doesn't want to know? Like who doesn't want more information from, beyond,
Mhm.
above, wherever it's coming from?
Right.
Um, and so I took some of her classes and stuff that she did and learned some different ways to access my records. I had her read my records for me. And then
Uh-huh.
over time, I just got really good at getting into meditation. And like, just like that next level was just going into the Akashic Records.
Mm.
For me, it's interesting because most of the time, I like in my inner vision, I go somewhere. Like, I have a
Mm.
place that I go that has expanded over time. And
Hmm.
now it's not so much, I don't go to the same place, but I'll show up in different places. But it's usually an environment, and then I get either I see something that I like, I witness something, or I hear words, or someone will come and engage with me. Um, and so I haven't ever read somebody else's, but I will go into mine and get guidance for guiding somebody else when I'm
Mm.
doing a human design reading, or, just chatting with someone and just having a sense of how I can serve and be supportive of them.
I love that. I like that approach, and especially with your human design. I know I mentioned that earlier. I'm like, oh, that is so cool that you combine all those different modalities.
Yeah. It's like we kind of get to do whatever we want, and I never knew that was a possibility. I mean, for all the interest in like personal development, self development, leadership development, like I think there was still a part of me that was like, but there are these conventional paths that you need to take. You need to
Right.
take. You hear even that language of like feeling like you have to pick a conventional path.
Mm.
Um, and it's funny to me because as you were saying before, experience flow state while you were doing your work. Your intuition was coming in anyway.
Yeah.
I was thinking I've experienced the same thing, like working with
Mm.
a student, and certainly there's the science, there's like I'm understanding their sensory processing and their nervous system and what's going on. But at a certain point, it's not me thinking through what they need. It's me intuitively tapping in to where they are and figuring out what do they need right now and how do I
Mm,
move them forward and
right.
getting it's almost like I get the messages, but it's like a quicker than somebody whispering something in my ear. It's like I just know,
Hmm.
like I know what to do and how to help.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's really pretty cool. So that must have blown your mind a little bit when you realized that that's what you were doing.
Yes, especially, yeah, when I started giving more readings to other people, I was like, okay, because I'll be honest, I felt comfortable doing readings for myself, but then when I started to do readings for others, I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to work. Is it going to be helpful? Am I describing it in a way that's beneficial for them? And there was a little trust issue, because if I'm giving guidance to someone else, I felt like the quality of information needed to be, at the top.
I feel you. I
Yeah,
feel
like
you.
a very high caliber. And
Yeah.
so it took some practice, but essentially, when I was in that flow state and doing readings for other people, it just when I get into the groove, if you could describe it that way, and I'm like, oh, this is what it feels like every time, and it just becomes familiar. It's just like going to the gym. I'm a big gym person, and flexing that muscle, stretching that muscle, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a I'm a little nervous about the idea of reading other people's records. Like
Yeah,
I haven't ever tried, but obviously I I probably just need to ask my guides to be like, okay, how what should I do? How do I do this?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It takes time. I know
Mhm.
on my journey, uh, I had was really excited to read other people, but it didn't come right off the bat. I had to process it and be like, okay, is this real? Oh, the trust. Oh, it was so hard, the trust factor. So, no, I totally understand what you're saying and can empathize.
Yeah. So you've made a big shift in your career, no longer working for the FBI.
Hmm.
And it's just been a few months since that transition. And so you're full fledged into doing your new work. How would you describe what it is that you do and your ultimate goal?
Yeah, great question. So I would describe what I'm doing is providing an opportunity for individuals to reconnect to themselves, start to trust themselves, where the inner intelligence that's always with them is help guiding them toward their next decision. And whether it's doing an Akashic record reading for them to give them sort of that, as I mentioned earlier, kind of that little quick nudge, 5 hour energy boost, if you will, in the right direction, or if it's actually advising them on how to do what I do. Uh, and through that, an individual gains more agency and sovereignty over their decision making in their life. And because of this work, my vision is essentially, or this discipline that I'm creating or have been creating will become more commonplace and more of a prominent norm for humanity, where we start to use more of our inner intelligence, our inner knowing, our messages from our body, and so forth to meet our logical thinking, and so we can make more aligned decisions going forward.
Mm, I love that so much. I think it's really cool too. You know, we're friends on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and I love seeing how the materials and the posts that you're putting out there are also in support of people who are going through a similar transition to you. No longer, so many people have lost their jobs, because of changes to the federal government. I don't
Hmm.
know how you describe that, but some of the dismantling perhaps that has happened and positions that have been so quickly told like this is not happening anymore, we're not doing this. And I imagine for so many people that's a really scary place to be,
Right.
because I don't know about you, but when I got into my career,
Uh-huh.
I was 15, 16 in high school, and I went to my guidance counselor and needed to find, to talk to him to find a career that would, utilize my interest in serving people, and also be a steady, good career to make good money. Like, this was me at 15, 16. Like, I need a steady career. I don't
Right.
know where. I mean, I'm sure it came very naturally from like my parents instilling in me, like, those strong values. You need to take care of yourself, like,
Right.
make a good income, pick a good career. So I
Hmm.
did. I picked a career in occupational therapy, and yes, I have had consistently a job this whole time, and many opportunities for more work if I wanted it. But it's like if you have always been shifted in that way, and I'm sure it was similar for you, where you're not just pursuing a job and it pays the bills, but this was a career.
Hmm.
So to all of a sudden no longer have that path. Like, I'm gonna work this career, I'm gonna put into my 401k, my 403b for me because I work for a nonprofit, like planning for like someday, somewhere, retirement, like way out in the distance.
Right.
Um, so like I imagine like how people must be feeling like I did the right thing. I did the
Mm.
steady thing. I did the smart thing, and
Right.
I'm in trouble now.
Yeah. 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 You raise a good point, especially with the current environment that we're living in. The individuals that I've been chatting with just feel like they're in a rock and a hard place, don't know where to turn, uh, don't feel like there's any solutions. They just need a job that puts food on the table. And for me, even, it was very difficult to finally decide, okay, I am ready to leave. And it was gradual because last year, around this time in 2025, January, February, the current administration provided the deferred resignation program. And initially, check in with some former colleagues. We're like, okay, is this real? Can we trust the program? Are you all getting paid? Because the program provided federal workers to essentially put on administrative leave, and you could not necessarily have to go into the office, but you were still getting paid. And so that was the first sort of signal to consider this program. I was also looking at where I was in my career with the FBI, what options I had left. I was also looking at my personal mission and purpose and considering that. And everything was sort of on an accelerated time frame because of this deferred resignation program. And I had to go through various exercises, both intuitively and analytically, and it ironically helped me out because that's kind of what I do now with clients. But long story short, if if it wasn't for those programs and sort of the accelerated timeline, meaning you had to decide by this date, otherwise the opportunity's gone, I had
Mm.
to really speed up the process on what I was going to do. And I checked once I had things confirmed intuitively through my own Akashic records, and then analytically or logically through some analytic exercises. I had an answer, but I was still like, "Ooh, this is a really heavy feeling and a very pivotal decision." So I even checked in with some friends. I have my own, I guess you could call it, intuitive pod.
I love
Uh,
that.
so I had other friends read my records just to give me additional guidance, double checking things. It was a very difficult time. And through that sort of sharing I want to put it, the decision. I mean, I had it, but it was hard to pull the trigger, so to speak. And so that's kind of the process that I went through to eventually come to the decision, like, okay, this is it, let's go.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Like, it wasn't that you went to your friends and you asked their advice. You were like, could you just check my records for me? Did I get this right?
Oh,
I'm like,
well,
wait, that's the kind of group of friends that I want to roll with. Wait, let me just check into your records for a second. Yeah, I love
yeah.
that.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, of course, we would have conversations like this, but I went
Sure.
a step deeper and be like, okay, you're in my little group, trusted group. Can you read my records? And what do you come up? What are you receiving? And it was essentially mirrored what I was getting. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Hmm.
It's so great. And it's brought you to where you are now. And I think the really cool part about this is that, like you said, you didn't know you were sort of practicing for what you were going to help people with. And sometimes we don't know when we're going through, whether it's a big transition, a dark night of the soul, like you were talking about earlier.
Hmm.
We don't really know like how we're going to navigate that.
Right.
Um, but then all of a sudden you're like, well, I figured it out. And then you say, I think I could help people. I think I could, you know, take them through some of these same steps. And, it's such a cool thing to me that what we may have believed just a few years ago about the idea of like you've got to find the guru to go to that's going to
Right.
teach you, that's going to they know everything, going to see Tony Robbins, reading the books, all of that. And then you're like, actually, I want to go to somebody who has literally walked this path that I've walked.
Mm.
Or I want to find that inner trust and that, like, deep within myself, that I don't need to go to anybody to gain wisdom. I just need to be able to tap into my own. And
Hmm.
that to me is one of my favorite things about doing what I do, is being able to be with someone and help to land that feeling of like I can trust myself.
Mm.
That, this is like, for me, it's through human design, looking at your human design and being like, yeah, of course you're going to feel this way. You have this open center, you have an open head, you're going to feel pressure. That's a normal thing. You're going to want to be certain, but it's never going to happen.
Right.
And like people can just breathe through that and be like, ah, oh, you're right. You're right. So I can be like, it's okay to be uncertain. I can figure things out a different way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Have you found, if I may build on that, that people really resonate with their own operating system and knowing how to use it?
Yeah. I think the cool thing that I find with human design is that you tell people and they're like, well, that makes sense. It's not even like they're like, wait, really? Most of the time they're like, oh, that's why. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the deeper I get into it, like what the particular gates can mean and the different placements and,
Hmm.
then you can start to look at it and say, oh, well, that, like, you can look at generational trauma and things like that. Oh, that might be where that was coming in and showing up. um, and I like to use the gene keys too, which looks at like
Mm.
each gate has a shadow state, which is, I would call, the unresourceful state. It has the gift, which is kind of where you want to operate with it, and then it has acidic state, which is kind of the highest level that maybe you're aiming towards. But
Oh, yeah.
if I'm experiencing, let's say, inertia, like I just can't get moving, well, that's a shadow for one of the gates in my left angle cross of planning. So,
Oh.
like, if it's in your gate, like, you may find, oh, if I'm feeling inertia, there's probably somewhere I'm out of alignment. There's something I need
Hmm.
to adjust. So you can take those emotions and feelings and kind of the way that you feel about yourself, and you can say, oh, well, that makes sense because in an unresourceful state, this is how that presents. And so then it's just a matter of, that feels unresourceful, that's telling me something's out of alignment. And I tell people,
Mm.
like, out of alignment doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong or not right for you. It could be, I haven't been taking good care of myself. I need to get some sleep. It's been a while since I ate a good meal, or just you need more joy in your life and you've been too much in your head and doing work and not finding things that bring you joy.
Yeah. That resonates on so many levels. Yeah, I could provide so many examples on how I was out of alignment, and now
Mm,
doing a lot better. So that definitely resonates.
Yeah. And I think it's okay. I think I was hard on myself for how I was feeling a lot of the time, but then when I look at my design, it makes sense. So, like, one of the places to look is your unconscious Mars, which is like sort of your immature kind of self, and it's
Mm,
considered your core wound to core
mm.
talent. So
Oh,
mine is, let me make sure I get the number right, 18. I think it's 18. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, human design people. I think it's 18. But it's judgment
oh,
is the shadow. And it can be
uh-huh.
like self-judgment, it can be feeling judgment from other people. So anytime I feel the theme of judgment coming up, I'm being judgy, I'm
Hmm.
feeling judged, I'm criticizing and judging myself. I'm like, that is my core wound. But it's you take it that next step and it's like, well, I can see more of the details. I can
Hmm.
see the lack of alignment, and I could just say, oh, that's just a lack of alignment, and you
Right.
don't have to make it mean anything about you. I think that's
Mhm.
what makes it such a good healing practice to kind of work through your human design, which I don't know
Mm.
if initially that was like the plan for it, but that's how I find it really helpful for people. It can be so healing to look at those gates and say, oh, okay, yeah, I resonate with that. And a lot of times your core wound is something you experience a lot of in childhood. So
Mm.
for me, feeling judgment, I felt a lot of judgment. And I don't even know that nobody did anything wrong. Nobody was highly judging me. I was just highly sensitive to feeling
Oh,
that from other people
yeah.
or
Okay.
taking what I thought might be somebody judging me, even if it wasn't happening. You know,
Yeah.
somebody looked at you funny and you're like, they're judging me. Meanwhile, they're like looking at the wall, you know, they were wondering, oh, I wonder where she got that hat. You know, I mean, it's like we're so in our own heads about what's in everybody else's heads, but everybody else's heads is their own stuff most of the
Right.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you there. And I have to say I know generally my human design, but not that much in detail. So I think that's something I'll have to explore when we get off this
Totally. Oh, yes,
episode.
yes, yes. I have new technology, really cool charts, which I think is the best part because I don't only want people to come to me and be like, "Can you decipher this?" but like teach people how
Mm,
to decipher their own charts and how to use it to their benefit. You know, it can be a really good tool for using your strengths.
right.
Yeah. So tell me about the tools that you're using with people. We talked about the Akashic Records.
Hmm.
Um, when you have somebody who comes to you, a client who comes to you, and they're in a really difficult transitional moment, chosen or not chosen, what are some of the first steps or pointers that you could give to people for how to start to connect with more of their intuitive side?
Yeah, that's a great question. And some suggestions I would provide is I have talked about this on LinkedIn and some other podcast conversations, but my interlogic framework, which is a four-step framework, I would strongly suggest someone to explore that, which is step one is to recognize and identify those inner signals, whether it be physical, emotional, or intuitive. Step two is the interpret part, which is where you start to use logic to refine those signals rather than suppress them and try to better understand what your body's telling you, what your emotions are telling you, and so forth. Then step number three is the line step, where you actively use your inner intelligence and combine it with rational thinking to figure out your next steps. And then step number four is the act, so you start to take aligned action, but more from a place that's not impulsive or forced, but more from a calm, centered uh, presence with what you're going through. And through that four-step process, an individual can begin to more strongly integrate their intuition and logic and feel more in a state of peace, a state of empowerment and confidence in where they want to go because they have all data sources available to them and not just one or the other, and can naturally just go into their next chapter, essentially.
Mm. I love that. I love a four-step process too because I think it's people are like, how many years? How many years is it going to be, Adam? How long am I going to have to be like in this place? And you're like, it's four steps. We could probably do
Yeah.
them all right now. Let's just start.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's great because then that's something that they can learn and continue to apply and sort of continuously cycle back through. I think
Hmm.
so many of us really were brought up to do so much more thinking
Mm.
and so much less like tuning in to our bodies. I kind of joke, I mean, it's funny, not funny, but just a few years ago, I was like, oh, feeling feelings is different than thinking about your feelings.
Sure.
Totally different than like embodying feelings and being in your body. And I think so many of us have not spent a lot of our lives being in our bodies. We've been all up here.
Hmm.
Yeah, is that something you've experienced as well?
Yeah, especially in heightened situations where I need to take a somatic approach to the
Mm,
to the challenge that I'm trying
mm-hmm.
to move through. For example, when I first was coping with the painful experience, which was a breakup with an ex-fiance, I had a vertigo, a lot of vertigo afterward. I think my body was saying, "Okay, this isn't
Taking you down.
working." Yeah, and when I either had the vertigo or I had a vertigo incident on an airplane, it caused me to have challenges with flying in an airplane. And so when I'm on an airplane, I do a lot of breathing techniques and calming down my nervous system and that breath work. So yeah, I can relate to what you said, starting to be more connected and have a relationship with my body in that way. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so helpful to get people more into it. I think the cool thing is, I mean, I've been working in sensory processing and sensory integration since the early 2000s. Like in
Mm.
beginning of my career, I got trained in sensory integration practices, but I didn't like make the connection of like being in your body till like a while later. I'm like, oh, I've been studying all this stuff and I don't have it down. And now I think it's really cool that people talk about their nervous systems more.
Mm.
And I don't know exactly where the upsurge in that being like part of our lexicon. I don't know exactly where that showed up. I guess maybe like through like some of people into yoga and things like that. I mean, obviously in
Mhm.
my profession, but OTs are notoriously not the best at like promoting themselves. So like everybody's talking about nervous system. I'm like, yeah, I've been doing this for a little while, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm happy that it's part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Um, because before I really got into the things that I'm into now, I was really into teaching sensory processing to people and like teaching
Mm.
them about their brains. And the reason I started to do that with adults is because I started to do it with kids. And when kids were having a difficult time, they were going into states of fight or flight. I was teaching
Mm.
them that you're not doing anything bad or wrong. It's just the way that your body is responding and it's how it keeps you safe. It's from a primitive part of your brain. And so then, like, showing kids a picture of the brain, like, this is the primitive part of your brain. This is the part of the brain that we want you to use in school. But if you're feeling in fight or flight, then this part is off. And the downstairs brain, which is some of the other languaging out there, turns on. And you can't get back upstairs. So you got to figure out, how am I going to get back upstairs? And so teaching kids that, it's what your nervous system does to keep you safe
Right.
makes it less about a misbehavior, which is where people used to see that. Like people kids all of a sudden running out of a room or yelling and screaming or hitting and kicking. And then you're like, well, actually, they're not misbehaving, they're dysregulated. It's different.
Right.
But adults go through the same thing, feeling a lot of times it's more internalized. We're not necessarily, I mean, unless we're having road rage or something like that, we're not really necessarily externalizing our dysregulation
Right.
until we can't hold it in anymore. And then it all pops out. But I wanted to teach people about the brain and the nervous system and like parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. I
Right.
just think it's super cool. And now to me, it's like it's the like key languaging for us to understand how our bodies and our brains work.
Right.
Um, and to know that like we only know so much.
Hmm. True. True.
We're getting more of a sense of how parts of our brain like link to higher powers, and it's provable scientific fact, not like, oh yeah, the people over there, those spiritual people over there think that something's happening. Now we're like, no, actually we can see it, we can,
Mhm.
scientifically prove it.
Yeah.
Um anyway, that was a long way around to get back to like that piece that you're helping people with, getting into their bodies, feeling safe in their bodies,
Yeah.
and making decisions from that place
Hmm.
versus spinning and feeling like you can't make a decision.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think right now a lot of people are having trouble with that. So what you're describing is a needed approach to solving that issue. And I find it a very healthy one because you're dependent on just yourself, and it's part of that self-leadership piece and self-compassion piece. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so huge. And I think that's such a good point. Having compassion for yourself. Like people are so hard on themselves,
Hmm.
and there are so many things that are to some extent out of our control right now.
Hmm.
And probably have always been. I think we're just a little bit more attuned to feeling that out of control nature. But we
Right.
do have control over ourselves and how we respond and how we take care of ourselves, how we're compassionate. And
Right.
I do think that that is the foundation of all leadership, like being able to lead yourself first,
Right.
however imperfectly, not perfectly, but
Sure.
have that intention.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do people connect with you to work with you, Adam?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you're navigating an internal shift or want more clarity in your decision making, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I share insights each week on logic to intuition integration and practical ways to understand your inner intelligence. So would love to connect with you there. My I guess it's hashtag or moniker is Adam-R-Dickinson. Dickinson on LinkedIn. So yeah, would love to chat with you there.
Yeah, that's a great place. And I keep telling people because most of the people that have been on my podcast, at least recently, are people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn. And I tell
Mm.
people if you're not on LinkedIn, you're missing out. It's pretty cool over there. I'm just going to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, a lot of great individuals. I know we were
Yeah.
talking about one earlier, so yeah, it's definitely a good place to meet other people.
Yeah. And especially when you find, I was saying to Adam earlier, I'm always checking out his posts, but then I'm going into the comment section. Like, this is the trick. Like, you can't just read somebody's post and like it or whatever. You got to get into the comment section, and that's where you
Mhm.
can meet people, connect with people, comment on what they're commenting.
Right.
I found so many cool people just hanging out in like the comment section of people's cool posts. Um, but I'm really impressed by your graphics and how you design things because it's not a natural skill for me. So I always appreciate other people. It has like a very like cool futuristic kind of
Yeah.
design and aesthetic to it. Very cool. You don't have to give away your secrets of how you do the design, but I just want to say for the listener, you should check out Adam's posts. I love a little like a just a few like a carousel of a few like
Hmm.
really beautifully designed pieces. Just
Yeah.
that to me, I love that aesthetic.
Good. I'm glad it's resonating. You know, they didn't really teach me marketing at the FBI Academy in Quantico, so I'm glad
Mm,
it's landing
mm.
well.
Understood. Yes, I also same for OT school. We did not learn marketing and design and all of those things. It's all
Yeah.
we both were smart and went to Camille Miller and did her business accelerator, which is a great place for people to get basically an MBA, but like faster, more
Yeah.
intensely, and like put it practically and spiritually right in to practice immediately. So, yeah,
100%.
that's a shameless plug for Camille. I'll tell
There
her
you
that we
go.
plugged her. She can
Well
hear it here.
appreciated. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What else is on your mind? What do you think people need to know for maybe like for the rest of 2026? How to navigate that, and what are maybe 1 to 3 pointers that you think would be helpful for them?
Yeah. I would say right now, trusting yourself is a big theme, especially with the work that I'm doing and encouraging. I would go with that concept if you can. But if you're unable to, the next one is, I think, more of the conversations I'm having and what people need right now is more of the mind-body connection and
Mm,
having your body play a role in your decision making. So that would be my suggestion for step number two. And then, or tip number two, and then tip number three is I think just giving yourself grace and compassion and really sinking into gratitude because it just sort of flushes out the system when things aren't going
mm,
well and it just sort of resets. So if I had to describe what 2026 is looking like and sort of the needed solutions, it would be self-trust, it would be mind-body connection, and then the third would be the aspect of giving yourself compassion and grace. So
yeah.
I think those are easy things to, well, not easy always, but things that are really needed right now.
It's a nice three things to tackle. I think that third one is so key. Having
Mm,
like grace and gratitude are so
hmm.
huge because
Yeah,
it's easy to get like really like pulled into the drama of
yeah,
everything right now.
right.
And I don't say that in an off the cuff way, for people who are going through really horrific and challenging times.
Mm,
Um, you know, I think it's more so when you can feel stuck and like there's not a light at the end of the tunnel.
right.
Just pick up something. My one of my practices is like just look around the room and just find a few things that were once things that you wanted,
Yeah,
that you desired, that you manifested. You know, whether it's a person and like look at this person in my life, or it's like, oh, look at that corner of my room that looks so well manicured and it used to be like cluttered and full of boxes, and like, oh,
right,
I did it, like I made it. We don't often kind of revisit the things that we dreamed and desired, that
right.
we just sort of get used to them becoming part of our world. Maybe it's part of convenience culture because we can kind of get everything we need within
Sure.
24 hours. But I think there's a lot to that. Just like taking a moment, taking a breath every once in a while, and being like, whoa, look at this, look at this roof over my head. It's freezing outside and my house is warm. Thank God. We've got plumbing, we've got heat.
Yeah,
There's running water, like there's a lot of blessings. So even if you're like, I cannot find one thing to be grateful for, be like, I can think right now. I don't have a headache, you know. I got a chair to sit in. I'm breathing, you know. I can complain about the little things because there's nothing really big happening, whatever it is. You know, I'm
Right.
being a little sassy with it, but I think that practice is one of the most underutilized but most helpful
Yeah.
um, practices to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
Mm.
All right. Any last words of wisdom or thoughts before we let the listener go?
Yeah. I would just say that if you're going through a time where nothing makes sense logically and you're trying to figure out a path forward, embracing your intuition and using it with logic is can be really helpful, especially right now, and
Mm,
is a a moment to pause and consider different ways to live from day to day and approach your challenges in a more aligned way, aligned path. So I would just
mm.
kind of leave with that.
I love that. I think that's perfect. And listener, if you have enjoyed this podcast and you've listened this far into our conversation, I really invite you to to share this podcast. Adam has so graciously shared some really great advice with us. So go ahead, share it with a friend, connect with us on LinkedIn, and let us know that you found us on the Bridges and Beacons podcast. And I'll be sure to put everything in the show notes so you can connect with Adam and find out more about his amazing work in the world. Adam, thank you so much again for being here.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate it, Kelly.
All right. Please promise you'll come back and we'll have another conversation and catch up soon.
Yes, I would love to. That would be amazing.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.